Welcome to
but we're on here now.
immigrationquestion.com, your go-to resource for U.S. immigration insights. We provide clear immigration news and information. Our platform provides a network of licensed attorneys who can answer your questions and guide you through the process. From visas to green cards, asylums to citizenships, immigrationquestion.com helps you to network with immigration attorneys so that you can move forward with confidence. Sign up today or download the app. Free registration, limited time offer. Stay tuned. We go live in 30 seconds.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the special edition webinar hosted by immigrationquestion.com, a networking platform and meeting ground where immigrants, families, advocates, and licensed immigration attorneys come together to understand U.S. immigration policies and procedures better. My name is GB Satusa, and I will be your host for today's important discussion: asylum updates, key changes, and what applicants should expect. Now, asylum law in the United States continues to change with policy updates, enforcement trends, and procedural changes affecting how cases are filed and adjudicated. For many applicants, keeping up with these changes can be challenging and may impact both eligibility and timelines. Now, understanding current developments, how they affect asylum seekers, and what to expect moving forward can help applicants better prepare. To help us break this down, we're honored to be joined by Ruby Powers Esquire, an experienced immigration attorney who focuses on asylum and humanitarian based immigration cases, helping individuals understand evolving policies and build strong claims. Attorney Powers, thank you so much for joining us today. We're thrilled to have you for this important discussion.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Now, before we begin, a quick reminder to our audience: immigrationquestion.com is a public educational and networking platform. The information shared today is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute individualized legal advice. If you are joining us on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, or any other platform, welcome. Please subscribe and share this session with anyone who may benefit from understanding recent asylum updates. Let's get right into it. Now, Attorney Powers, can you walk us through the current rules for asylum and how recent policies changes have affected who can apply and how cases are processed?
Well, there's a lot to unpack there, and we don't have a lot of time. I would just say that an overall tendency there's been erosion of U.S. asylum law, a lot more restrictions, and less people are eligible. There's the filing fee of $100 for asylum seekers, but then it's annual for the main principal. But then there also was, we saw something interesting in 2025 where there was like the speed up of, starting to interview people who had filed 9 or so years earlier. But then all of a sudden we saw sort of a slowdown where they were talking about focusing on re-adjudicating prior applications. We also had a pause on decisions. They would still have interviews, but like adjudications. And then just recently, a couple of weeks ago, they unpaused some countries from that, depending on. So USCIS is resuming processing for many applicants for asylum, but those from non-high risk countries. There's still applications from about 39 to 40 or so countries that often are tied to the travel ban or expanded travel and immigration ban that are still on hold. So it is very dynamic. It's hard to answer that question. I would just say that overall, it's been negative for asylum seekers in the last year and a half since the change in administration. And it is, there's still there's still glimmers of hope for being able to apply, and to some are even getting some favorable decisions. But we're also been seeing a trend where some people are not even getting an interview, but are getting a notice to appear sent, being referred to court. So lots of changes, trying to get it all pieced together, and it really can be depend on your particular situation. So you can't just say this is something that was happening 2 years ago, so that's what's happening now. No, like literally, this can be changing by week, and sometimes we don't have enough information to be able to piece together what is going on. The other thing that's happening is just like the case law, and if we're talking about affirmative versus defensive, but in the defensive space in immigration court, a lot of new BIA decisions, the Board of Immigration Appeals, have been coming out, and those have been continuously eroding the asylum law as well. And so that is making it more difficult.
Yeah.
So that's like overall trends, what we're seeing.
All right. Now, Attorney, we've seen reports of cases and increased scrutiny in asylum adjudications. What is actually happening with asylum processing right now, and how are these changes affecting applicants?
Well, like I was sort of starting out, like what's going on. There, I guess the positive is that not all cases are completely paused. Somewhere towards the end of 2025, they paused everybody, and it's confusing because they were still scheduling interviews, but they weren't giving a decision. And so just 2 weeks ago, like I was mentioning, they now are going forward with adjudicating or making decisions on more cases. They've unpaused the pause. I guess. They've released the pause on some, but not all. But we're also hearing that they might be trying to re-adjudicate, so re-interview or re-evaluate cases that they had previously approved. And so I don't even know if USCIS knows what's going on, honestly. No offense, but I think there's a lot of changes. So it's a combination of trying to move some things forward, still going through some of the motions, but maybe not making decisions. And then we're hearing about more reevaluating or more scrutiny. And but we think it's mostly on certain countries that are being targeted, like the ones that have been put under bans than others. So in defensive immigration, we're hearing reports of immigration judges being fired if they have too many approvals. And so overall, they've statistically are saying that there's a 7% approval rate for asylum and immigration court, which is drastically low compared to prior years, and just by the numbers, drastically low. So there's increased scrutiny, there's less favorable asylum law, and just overall, we're seeing it's sort of like a war on asylum in a way. And it's very unfortunate. We're still trying to fight the good fight and go forward. We know that it's unjust, a lot of these changes that have been made, and so I'm hoping that one day we'll see justice when some of these provisions will be reversed. But it could be a long time, and people might not even be able to see that change during the course of their history of their case. So the recent policies that have introduced heightened the vetting and review of cases for certain nationalities, and how is that impacting the pending and the newly filed? Well, on January 1st, 2026, USCIS expanded the processing hold to nationals of 39 countries under the expanded travel and immigration ban, and later extended it to 75 countries in total. So it is quite confusing what's happening in terms of who's paused, who's banned, where they banned or paused, everything from the non-immigrant side to the immigrant visas to asylum. And so what we're hearing also is that they're holding re-review or already approved benefits. It seems to be there's a targeting of certain nationalities, like Afghanistan, Venezuela, certain other countries that seem to have a focus. And so these are some of the things that we're seeing in that vetting and re-review of cases. And going back to what I had previously said, this seems to be what is causing a lot of delays because there's less team members, there's more scrutiny, and there's more backlog to overcome. So I think one of your other questions was about the restricting or the delaying of work authorizations for asylum, and how could they affect the decision, the asylum applicants. Well, one of the things was that in February of 2026, DHS proposed a major rule of employment authorization reform for asylum applicants. And basically they're wanting to double the waiting period from the EAD from 180 days to 365 days. That is still in the public comment period, but that is waiting, doubling the amount from half a year to a whole year. We already had issues where they are not getting the 5-year work authorization until December 4th, 2025. It went from 5 years to 18 months. And the processing time for the validity of asylum pending work authorization. So what that means is if someone applies for asylum and then they had to wait 180 days and then they got the work authorization, instead of getting 5 years, they're getting only 18 months. But it's taking a really long to adjudicate. It's taking time to adjudicate. But then also, what that means is that the individual has to renew and pay the fee to renew on a regular basis. So there's been a couple of things. Another one that happened was that they used to have the automatic renewal. As soon as you applied for the renewal, you had an automatic extension. But they got rid of that last year as well. So now we don't have the automatic extension. We have the 18 months validity instead of 5 years, and now they're trying to make an asylum seeker wait a year instead of 6 months to apply. That isn't a final rule yet, but that's probably going to go forward unless that can be challenged. So overall, that's a really good question. There have been a lot more restrictions and delaying of the work authorization, and making it more difficult for asylum seekers.
All right. Thank you so much, Attorney Powers, for continuing with the conversation and keeping it going. I seem to be having difficulties, but we do soldier on. So, how have enforcement trends and border related policies influenced access to asylum, particularly for individuals entering or already present in the United States?
Well, it's been really tough because let's see, where was I? I can't remember. There's a lot less people coming across from the border than the nonprofits and the support that were there are not. I think I was near the border recently. I think it was a couple months ago. Yeah. There's a lot less people able to cross over and seek asylum. So there's less people applying. There's less people who qualify. The ones who came the last 2 years, from like the May 23 to May 25, were under the circumventing lawful pathways provision, which makes it even increasingly difficult to apply for asylum. We also are having this third country removals where they're trying to deport people to other countries, and the asylum cooperative agreements that U.S. has with 25 countries to try to deport people to other countries. So, like I was mentioning, the erosion of asylum law, especially from cases that are coming out of the Board of Immigration Appeals. So a person who should have qualified for asylum before January 2025, a lot of people don't. Like I was mentioning, that 7% approval rate. The judges are afraid to approve. There's circumventing lawful pathways. There's, if you have withholding, then they'll try to deport you to some other country. There's also another case called matter of car, a CARR, and they're pre-terminating cases before you even can even go forward with the case. And I think it was the case came out to try to prevent to further reduce the backlog to cases. So overall, it's like if it's not one thing, it's another, and it's like death by a thousand cuts of just erosion of constant erosion of asylum law, which I believe is unjust and illegal. But that's what we're dealing with at the moment.
Yeah, yeah. Now, are adjudicators applying stricter standards when evaluating credibility, evidence, or eligibility under the five protected grounds?
I think so because of what we're seeing here with the Board of Immigration Appeals. They have substantially reduced a lot of the protections that we had, and so like domestic violence, like family members. A lot of these types of provisions in case law have been disappearing, and so let's see, what's another example? If I have another one, I can just come up with from a list of some recent changes. Um, so they are so many Board of Immigration Appeals decisions that have been coming. Serious non-political crime bar does not contain a duress exception. The right to enter, live, and work or own property indefinitely does not offer permanent resettlement. Um, no presumption that a single misdemeanor conviction is not a particular serious crime. There's a lot of different bars that have been coming out in addition to that circumventing lawful pathways. But then for the particular social groups, for example, they've been reversing a lot of the positive case law that was beneficial. So about the particular social groups with, for example, with the sex and nationality doesn't equal a particular social group, and there I mean there's just so many, from the domestic violence to family, and I mean it's really hard to keep track of all of the different cases that have been really coming out in just the last like 6 or 8 months from the BIA, and so overall a lot more scrutiny, and it's really hard to be able to qualify for asylum now.
Yeah. Now, looking ahead, attorney, what strategic advice would you give asylum seekers to build stronger cases?
Oh, well, just do what you normally do, but then do more of it to build it up, and to make it as strong, and to hopefully build a good case for appeal that could maybe take long enough to see the light of day of change in the case law. Cross your T's, dot your I's. One of the ones is having a copy of every page of your passport. Not having that can apparently make your case pre-terminated for the matter of car, for like immigration court purposes. Filling out every box. Don't say see attached statement. Put the answer in it, even if you can't read it because it's so small because of the font. But no, I'm just saying like fill every box. Don't give them a chance to say it's deficient. Go the extra mile. Don't skimp on it. You can't just put some stuff and say, okay, I'll tell you more at the interview or court or anything. So those are the things that we need to know, is to be as thorough as you can, and know that it's an uphill battle.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for those insights, attorney. For everyone
Mhm.
watching, this discussion about asylum updates is not meant to create panic, but to provide clarity about how changing policies may affect applicants. Staying informed and preparing thoroughly can help individuals better handle the changes in asylum immigration. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. Immigrationquestion.com is a networking platform where users can ask immigration related questions at no cost and engage with participating attorneys. We're also proud to share that immigrationquestion.com is triple B accredited and ISO certified. This reflects our commitment to transparency, accountability, community education, and security. Now, Attorney Powers, based on your experience, how does immigrationquestion.com help immigrants and immigration attorneys like yourself?
Well, I think giving a platform for these questions to be answered is very beneficial because there's a lot of changes. We do a lot of this on our social media platforms, but this is a good place to aggregate those to have an opportunity to ask and get these questions answered. And it's not very static. Like the things that we're dealing with right now are constantly being changed and changed. So if you said like if a friend this happened to them last year or 6 months ago, it might not be the case now. I know sometimes people are afraid to go talk to an immigration attorney or think they cost a lot of money or whatever, but like really please go talk to an immigration attorney who has experience. Please ask them these detailed questions. Make sure that you feel comfortable with them, so representing you. This is not the time to go to someone who's not an attorney to fill out a form. You say fill out a form. There's so much more to this. If you get an immigration court and you don't win, then it's very looking likely for a deportation, and they are building detention facilities in space, and so this is serious. And it's very unfortunate what's happening to asylum law, but and I know not everyone has the means to fight all the way, but just wanting to let you know that have a good counsel, do the best you can, and tell the truth. And just because there has been this erosion of asylum law where there's less and less opportunity, it doesn't mean it's forever. I've seen the ebbs and flows over the many years. I've been practicing for 17 years, but even before I did asylum through when I was a law clerk and intern in law school and my work before I became a lawyer. And the pendulum swings back and forth. And it's unfortunate where we are at the moment.
Yeah, yeah. Before we move into our live Q&A, can we tackle this important question? What is a common misconception asylum applicants have about recent policy changes that you believe should be clarified very early in the process?
Well, I think that the attorney should explain what possibly could happen in the interview, from the results of the interview to what going to court, what could happen in court, detention, what that could look like. I mean, honestly, we don't have as much all the things that we need to cover in a consultation. We don't have enough time to cover everything, but when representation, we're able to sort of explain these types of things as well. But there are a lot of nuances, and sometimes we don't even know what could possibly happen, but because things are changing. But I think knowing that if you apply, it could lead to immigration court, and if you go to immigration court, it could lead to being detained, potentially. So knowing that these things could happen and being prepared for that is really important. Um, so those are just sort of the things that I think are important for an individual to know, and don't take this lightly. This is definitely very serious. Whatever, and of course you need to file if you need to tell the truth in everything that you do anyway. So.
Yeah. If you're just joining us, we've been speaking with attorney Ruby Powers on asylum updates, key changes, and what applicants should expect. We're now moving into our live Q&A session. This is your opportunity to ask general questions and hear educational insight from a licensed immigration attorney. Please drop those questions in the chat or call us live at 516-703-3483, and we'll take as many as time permits. All right. First question: why are some people being asked to attend new interviews even after already getting asylum approval?
Well, it's because they're saying that they want to re-adjudicate cases that they want to vet further, that maybe they did decide correctly the first time, and they're wanting to be more diligent. That's what they're saying. Um,
All right.
I mean, sometimes in the past, we might have had 3 interviews for an individual, but I've never seen it that they approved the person, and then they later asked them to have another interview for the same thing they've already been approved for.
Yeah.
So we're sort of in new territory in that space.
Yeah. Yeah. Please, why is it now harder to qualify for asylum than before?
Well, because of everything I just said, it's sort of like the administration has a war on asylum and is trying to make it is exceedingly difficult. So that's the short answer.
Yeah. Will they stop giving work permits completely to asylum seekers?
Um, you know, I don't know what they're going to do, but they're basically getting to that point in a way because they're wanting to propose this rule that they would double the wait period. So that's, and then they're not giving the automatic renewals, and then they're giving the 18 months instead of the 5 years. So I mean, that it seems to be what they're trying to go in that direction, but it's not exactly that way. I could probably stay for one more question, then I have to go.
All right. Now, Attorney, recent reports indicate that DHS is proposing new restriction on asylum work permits, which could affect how and when applicants are eligible for employment authorization while their cases are pending. Now, when asylum seekers hear about potential restrictions on work permits, how should they prepare for these changes, and what steps can they take to manage expectations during the work period?
You mean when the part when the work permit's not valid because
Yeah.
they're waiting for the adjudication? Well, we knew this was like a tsunami that was going to hit months after this announcement. Um, the technical answer is that you should tell your employer what's happening, and then you likely would need to go on an unpaid leave to try to retain the position. The employer might not want to do so. This is going to cause a lot of havoc. You could try to do an expedite request, but I think they're going to be inundated with those because of the ridiculousness of this policy. So this is just really going to put a lot of people in a very stressful predicament, and when we're already dealing with inflation and a tough economy. So we're in a tough situation. So that's all I can say. Like you're not supposed to work without work authorization. You can't control the processing time. You can't control that they didn't give you the automatic extension. So
Thank you so much to everyone who joined this special edition webinar. And thank you, Attorney Powers, for your time and for sharing your knowledge and practical guidance with us today.
Yeah. Well, my pleasure.
You can always visit immigrationquestion.com to ask immigration-related questions, stay informed about policy updates, and register for upcoming live events. If you missed any part of today's important discussion, it will be available on Spotify soon. Just search Borderless Talk by immigrationquestion.com. We look forward to seeing you on Friday for our next live session. And until then, stay informed, stay prepared, and stay connected. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney.